Oh, yes.
Welcome back, everyone. Today I've got a review for War for Cybertron Siege number 49. This is the Autobot Crosshairs. Crosshairs is a new head retool of the Ironhide mold, not utilizing any of the retooling that went into Ratchet. So it's basically Ironhide with just a new head. And he is a returning character from Generation 1 that hasn't received a new toy since his original. And that toy was one of the Autobot Targetmasters. Oddly enough, despite being launched in a toy line that puts a heavy emphasis on Battlemasters, which are just basically the new name for Targetmasters, his Targetmaster pinpointer is not available, hasn't been announced or made so far. The closest thing we got is a red and black Battlemaster named Trenchfoot, who, as far as I know, there's no indication he's meant to be a pinpointer, but I don't believe we've gotten any word on that from Hasbro either way. Now, Crosshairs is a bit of a mishmash of inspirations. He uses a lot of the toy detailing, especially with these little tampographs here that are meant to evoke like the old toy stickers, but he utilizes the interesting, very unique head sculpt that was used for the Marvel comic and Generation 1 cartoon. Very different from how the original toy looked, which we're a little closer there. See, very interesting looking. He's got red eyes, which is also very unusual for an Autobot during the original Generation 1 run. So if you see my reviews, you know how this goes. We're going to take a look at Crosshairs' packaging. We're going to look at his instructions, and then we'll look at the figure itself in both vehicle and robot modes, do some group shots and comparisons, and at the end I will give my final thoughts. So Crosshairs, very vibrantly colored, so he stands out really well in the packaging. Over here, got this nice artwork of him. It's a little plain, though in a way it kind of evokes the wonkiness, the old G1 character art. At least that's my take on it. Now, oddly enough, if you look here, you see him, he's kind of bending his torso, but he's not bending at his waist joint. He's actually bending at like the hinge where the windshield connects, which is not something the toy can actually do. And I think it's just a kind of an artist error, but minor detail. There is a hidden code on here. It comes out to pinpoint, which is obviously a reference to his old Targetmaster pinpointer. So you go on the Transformers website, type that in, get some goodies. Now back here, we have renders of him in his vehicle and robot modes. It takes 14 steps to transform, and you get some cross cells with the Battlemasters, and that's really it. So here are Crosshairs instructions. You can see a nice picture of him there, front and center. Go ahead and open it up. And this part just shows you how to transform his weapon from its gun mode or bazooka mode to a hammer mode. Then you got your transformation to his vehicle mode, how to store the weapon. On the reverse side, you have the stats for his weapon mode in both forms. And it's actually got the exact same name as Ironhides, so they didn't even bother to give it a new name. It's the same weapon. Then you got your Battlemaster, cross cells, all that, where to attach fire blast effects, and that's it. And here we have the vehicle mode. You can see very brightly colored, and it's got those awesome tampos that mimic the original toy stickers, so again, very cool. Got this nice white paint over here. He does unfortunately have the completely clear windshield like Ironhide, so you can see his robot head clear as day, though he does at least have an Autobot symbol to somewhat cover it up. And overall, nothing new to see. If you've seen Ironhide's vehicle mode already, he's got some battle damage paint right here on what are his feet in robot mode, then some on the front bumper, and that's actually it. They didn't do any on the weapon this time, regardless of what the wiki will tell you, because they're wrong. Unless maybe they've updated it by now, who knows. Obviously you got the weapon mounted on the top, and you can have it on there, you can choose not to. Personally, I'd leave it on because it is meant to mimic his Targetmaster, and the Targetmaster, would be mounted on his vehicle mode if you had one. And it just makes him look pretty cool. Looks like some sort of attack vehicle. So that's neat. And here are Ratchet and Ironhide for comparison. Like I said, molding is no different from the Ironhide version, so you're getting pretty much the same thing here. And Ratchet's been extensively remolded from that version, so there's quite a bit setting them apart. Naturally, any of their weapons are compatible with the other vehicles. They all roll quite well. Vehicles get, or their wheels get a lot of traction even on this very smooth surface, so pretty neat. And he makes for a very eye-catching vehicle. Also, on the subject of his Targetmaster mounting the vehicle mode, you could always simulate that if you want to. Take old Trenchfoot here, aka maybe or maybe not pinpointer. You can go ahead and attach him somewhere on the roof if you want a more classic look for the vehicle mode. And having the fire blast thing attached there just makes this look more dynamic. Very neat looking. And the last thing before we transform this guy is a quick comparison with his old G1 toy, or at least the only copy of it I have, which is unfortunately very old and very beat up. But it was a freebie, somebody gave it to me, so I wasn't about to turn it down. Let's see, this thing has seen no love in all those years, so that's a shame. But I will show you. These stickers are what these tampos are meant to emulate. Then obviously they end up in different places on their vehicle modes because this guy is supposed to be some sort of like a dune buggy and this one's more of a van. So, he does take a big hit for accuracy in this mode because it's really not even the right vehicle mode. And now we have Crosshairs in his robot mode. And just like his mold mates, he is a very tall Siege Deluxe. Very bulky, strong looking. He's got his weapon in the hammer configuration, which kind of adds to that, whole motif of him being a bruiser. Brand new head sculpt, and again, it is based on his animation model, which is honestly a very unique, very interesting head sculpt. Even though it's got a mouth plate, it's a very different one, which is nice. The eyes are painted this nice red color that really stand out. Makes him look a little sinister for, a good guy, but, it works, and he looks very cool with it. The leg tampos come off looking really nice on this. The battle damage he has is subtle, so it doesn't distract from the toy too much. Again, you can unfortunately see right through his windshield, so it might be a bit distracting. But if you want to, you could always reconfigure his weapon into the gun mode. Just plug it in like so. And yeah, just by himself, he's a really neat figure. And, the way I kind of look at it with the whole weapon situation, Siege does take place chronologically before, the Transformers ever come to Earth. So it would make sense that he doesn't have a Targetmaster partner yet if you're keeping this in some kind of continuity with the general G1 timeline. But maybe that's just me making excuses and covering up my disappointment that he doesn't have his own Targetmaster. Here's a nice group shot of him with Ironhide and Ratchet, and they do really look like they belong together, like they are part of the same time frame, this whole final days of the War for Cybertron and all that, so very cool looking. And another comparison with the G1 toy, you can see how radically different their faces are. So this took some getting used to because I have owned this figure for well over a decade now. So, when I think of Crosshairs, this is usually what I think of, so I have to kind of reprogram myself to see him this way now. Overall, the details line up fairly well. The forearms are the wrong color, though the hands are black like they're supposed to be. And the windshield on the original toy is actually pointing up, whereas with him it's pointing down. And not super noticeable, but it's something that may or may not bug you, depending on how much of a purist you might be in your collection. And then, of course, just like with his vehicle mode, he can wield old Trenchfoot in this mode. And, come off looking very cool for that. And they do match up together. The colors are a bit backwards for how pinpointers are supposed to be. So it's not a perfect matchup. And fun fact, you may know this, may not, but 5mm holes and pegs have been around for a long time. And as such, the old G1 crosshairs can actually wield this guy just fine. You can hold pretty much any weapon that has a 5mm handle. So that is very cool to see. So overall, Crosshairs is a very fun figure. I have enjoyed playing with him and just seeing how he differs from the other toys, you know, how well they made a mold that really should work quite well for him. I do like the new head sculpt, even if it does take me some getting used to. His tolerances are fantastic, just as good as the other two, and even better in the case of Ironhide, because these leg panels don't pop off when you're trying to transform or anything. Though I do believe later runs of Ironhide did fix that issue. Unfortunately, mine had it really bad. The toy, you know, could have been better if he came with a Battlemaster, though that seems to be stretching it as far as Hasbro's usual budget for the size classes and all that. Or, you know, if they just gave him Pinpointer. Because as far as we know, this guy isn't actually Pinpointer. So it's really hard to know if that's official or not. I wish Hasbro would come out and say either way. But for what he is really neat. I think he's a very good looking use of the mold. Kind of like him a little more than Ironhide. Just based on aesthetics alone, Ironhide's a little bland looking for my taste. But, you know, that's obviously a personal preference. I predict that this guy's not going to fly off the shelves like Spinister will. One, because he is a remold. And two, just because Spinister seems to be in very high demand. A lot of people are very excited for him, because admittedly he's a very cool toy. Which is why I will be reviewing him here shortly. So I think Crosshairs is not going to get the love that he deserves. But if you do like the idea of having the Autobot Targetmasters, or you just like having a cool looking robot, I think he's very much worth picking up. Of course, that is only my take on him. Perhaps you feel differently. Whatever your take is, I'd love to hear it in the comments section. If you did enjoy this review, make sure to toss it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this or any other content, make sure to hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell so you always get notified when I post something new. I thank you for joining me for this look at a very long-awaited update to a very cool character, a very cool figure. And with all that said, I will see you next time.